sunny, it's hot, and we're talking football. What more could you ask for? Hello and welcome to another edition of Touchdown BC. We're situated in the Touchdown BC lounge today. We forgot the keys to the studio in the car. We'll get them for you next time. I'm Ryan Sullivan. Yes, it is the off season, but there is still plenty to talk about in and around amateur football here in beautiful British Columbia. We want to keep the football community informed throughout the entire year, so during the off-season, we'll be doing a monthly episode keeping you up to date with the happenings in and around football throughout the province. Now let's start things off by turning the clock back to January, where the VI Raiders made a major announcement in regards to who will be leading their team onto the field in 2014. Longtime VI Raiders head coach Matt Snoop Blocker stepped down from his position with the team, leaving to go coach the Calgary Colts of the Prairie Football Conference. Replacing Blocker is former VI Raider and former Montreal Alouette Brian Ridgway. Ridgway was an original member of the Raiders in the team's inaugural season back in 2005. The former linebacker helped the Raiders secure a Canadian Junior Football League championship in 2006. It was a roller coaster offseason for the UBC Thunderbirds. First off, the future of the program was in question, at least in the eyes of many of the media. The department launched their sports targeting initiative, reviewing all varsity sports in the UBC family. Football was also part of that review, with many feeling the program was in the crosshairs. In January, the administration did an about-face, and football was safe. No doubt, pressure from many well-heeled donors helped in that effort. As a result, there is a new structure at UBC. The team created a general manager position and hired former Abbotsford Heat Vice President of Sales and Service, Justin McIntyre, to fill that new role. The Team BC Under-18 squad traveled to San Antonio, Texas for a second consecutive year to take part in the FBU International Bowl. After falling down 7-0, the BC squad rattled off 45 unanswered to take down Team Europe in a lopsided win. AJ Blackwell from Carson Graham led the way offensively with a pair of touchdowns. The game versus Europe was the lone game for Team BC in this year's tournament. February began with some exciting news from Burnaby Mountain. SFU unveiled former BC Lions offensive coordinator Jacques Chapdelaine as their new head coach. Jim Mullen got a chance to sit down with the new head of the clan.
Thanks very much, Ryan. Now joined by Jacques Chapdelaine, the new head coach of the Simon Fraser clan. Kind of like going home again. You're a graduate of Simon Fraser. How does it feel to be in charge up on the hill?
Oh, it's fantastic. You know, it was a homecoming of sort, if you'd like. Certainly over the years, I'd been looking at different college opportunities, and some of them were of different caliber, let's say, but definitely the SFU opportunity was a great opportunity, and it just felt right.
Now, Frank Borries a few years ago took over the SFU job in midstream in the offseason. I believe it was after spring camp, and you really lose a year when you get a late start. You didn't have quite as late of a start. Have you been able to kind of pick up in the offseason?
Yeah, no, you are a little bit behind the eight ball. I mean, as far as the recruiting process, the administrative process, I was fortunate enough to be able to count on the support of our athletic director, Milt Richards. And of course, in the NCAA, the National Letter of Intent began this year, February the 7th. I began work February the 4th. I mean, right away you get thrown into things. The good thing about Division II football is that, you know, most of the gifted kids will be looking at Division I opportunities first and come back to you in a couple of weeks after that. So I still think that we had a decent recruiting class. I think we've got some exceptional young men that are coming. We just don't have maybe the numbers that we could have had we started earlier, but we're very satisfied with the quality of young people that are coming in and joining the program.
Now let's talk a little bit more about recruiting, and that your predecessor, Dave Johnson, liked to reach south of the border for a bit of talent, going to Washington, Oregon, and even into California, and I believe Arizona for a couple of players. A total of 31 U.S.-trained players on that roster. I know with your background from Quebec, I think you might be a little tempted to go back east a little bit than down south, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, there were some legitimate reasons for Dave to reach out that way. First of all, for his own, from his own point of view, he had lived down in Arizona, probably knew some of the coaches down there. We found that a lot of our U.S. student athletes do have a certain period of adjustment that they have to go through academically. And for that reason, you know, we've looked at the recruiting strategy, and we've thought, okay, let's concentrate on Canada first and foremost. We have gone to Quebec. I just came back from a recruiting trip where I spent 2 weeks basically going through most of the CJEPs. We went through 25 CJEPs, and the reception was tremendous. Kids do want to come to SFU. They want to play NCAA football. We are recruiting as well in the U.S. I mean, the first student athlete that we signed this year was actually from Maui. Basically, had played high school football at Olympia, Washington, and Derek Becker is a quarterback that moved with his family to Maui. And so we're not turning away from the American student athletes, but we're very conscious of the fact that, you know, the high school academic curriculum is a little bit different than the Canadian curriculum. So to ease the adjustment period, you know, we've got to be a little bit more discerning in terms of our recruiting down there.
Now, you won a Vanier Cup with Laval in 1999. You were part of a program that was building from the ground up, and we see what a powerhouse they are in the CIS these days from those foundations. How is that experience comparable to the experience that you're having right now rebuilding a clan team?
I think the biggest thing is understanding what we did back in those days. I mean, I came into the SFU program. We had over 100 players in the past on the roster, and I'm not sure that all of those players had a legitimate chance of achieving and competing on the field. One of the things that we did at Laval is we narrowed down our roster a little bit with a philosophy that we weren't going to recruit kids that weren't going to be able to get on the field within 2 years. So it's with that same optic, basically, that we're going into the recruiting foray right now, and it's working very well. We've installed new systems, both offensively and defensively. Abraham Elimimian is our defensive coordinator, the brother of Solomon Elimimian with the BC Lions. So the kids are excited about that. The other process that we're doing is we're making sure, I told the kids, that the most important thing for them to be successful next year is not necessarily all the weight programs and the weight training that you're going to do, the skill training that you're going to do. Is basically being eligible academically. So we've really put a lot of emphasis on that, and I think that's extremely important.
How much more competitive has recruiting become out in the field? Because we know that things have really heated up in terms of certain CIS schools. A few of them were out here in your own backyard for the BC U18 and U16 evaluation camp. It's certainly ramped up over the last 3 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, and certainly what is a little bit different is how the CIS does the recruiting as opposed to the mechanics that we have to abide by in the NCAA. So our regulations in the NCAA will prevent us from doing certain things that the CIS schools can do. And certainly what they're doing is not necessarily breaking the rules at the CIS levels, but it is different. So part of what we have to do is educate the student athletes that the way we're approaching things and how we're doing things is not a slight or disrespectful way. I mean, we just can't have the same amount of contacts that the CIS schools can have with a young man. However, we do feel that most young people, we have a product most young people want to access. And playing NCAA football is important. They're looking at the caliber of play that we're playing, and they're very excited about that. Our school academically just won an award NCAA-wide. We finished first in academics at the Division II level in all of North America. So that's also very exciting, I think, not only for the student athlete, but for the parent that has to help the student athlete make a decision as far as academics is concerned.
You know, many people who get involved in professional football as a profession lose touch with amateur football, with the college level. It sounds to me that you always had your ear on what was going on. You've just picked up where you left off with your time in Laval, going seamlessly into SFU. Were you in touch while you were offensive coordinator with the Lions and the Edmonton Eskimos?
Well, certain things kind of lend the way. I mean, I've got 3 kids of my own, and my daughter went to the University of Oregon on a scholarship and played basketball there for 5 years, essentially, and she was also on a Canadian national team. So I got to see firsthand through her recruiting process how the NCAA and the Division I process was for her. The boys were also recruited a little bit by the NCAA schools, but Matthew chose to go CIS route. He went to the University of Alberta, and Justin went to Queen's University. So, you know, throughout those years, I was able to see basically and keep up, as you say, keep up to the process that we see at the CIS level. And certainly as a parent, not as a coach, you get to analyze and basically look at what's worked well and what hasn't worked so well, maybe for each of our kids. Nothing is perfect, but you know, I really feel that at the end of the day, what we're doing right now and what they had a chance to do was basically always based on the very, very basic three things. You got to be happy academically, you got to be happy with your sport, and you've got to be happy with the environment that you're in, and that still remains true.
Idaho State on the road, a real U.S. college atmosphere for you guys to start your season with.
It's an exciting game for us. You know, it's a big trip in the sense that not only from a distance point of view, but we're playing a Division I school again in Pocatello, and we're going to be playing indoors. So for the kids, it's going to be significant. We've already talked to Idaho State about film exchange, and of course they were gracious enough to send us some film. Of course, we didn't mind sending us our film from last year, and we're looking forward to the preparation.
Well, the film's going to be different too as you move through this season. You're just starting to work on a playbook right now. Is there anything that you can grab from your CFL experience, even if it's 12-man, that you can apply to what you intend to do in Division II?
There's lots of stuff, you know. Like I think that one of the things that was really interesting over the years is to work with quarterbacks such as Dave Dickinson, Casey Printers, Travis Lulay, Buck Pierce, and fellows that could say, you know, like Mike Riley, who actually played at Central Washington in the same conference that we have, and all those guys would say, you know, like I remember we did some of these things that were kind of similar, but if we had those things in college, it would really be really good. And so they weren't talking about the 12th guy. They were talking about some concepts that we put into place in spring ball, and I thought the kids really took well to that. There was obviously a learning curve, and our guys did a really, really good job. I think as time went on throughout our 15 practices, there was a greater level of comfort. And I'm looking forward to going to camp and see how much has basically stuck with them throughout this offseason, and how much more we can challenge them with.
I understand right now there's the possibility that you could be moving back to Swangard Stadium, which is a fantastic facility.
Our athletic department and the city of Burnaby are in talks and discussions right now. And from my understanding is we're nearing the end of the process of basically establishing a contractual agreement that will have us go back to Swangard. So it was important for us to basically find a place which had an established venue where there was been known results, known success as far as being able to attract, market, and produce a sporting event of significance. And I think that the beauty about Swangard Stadium is that it's easy to access. It's very close to all public transportation. A lot of our students from the general population live off campus as well. It'd be fairly easy for them, and even the ones that are on campus can easily access the stadium. So we're really looking forward to that. I think Mike Lionello, one of my assistants in charge of football operations and all this good stuff, put on Facebook a picture basically of an SFU, and I believe it was UBC that was competing in the game. And you know, I would think that they were somewhere between 4,000 to 5,000 people at that game. So certainly we're looking forward to having football returning to a stadium and getting that college feel again.
This is going to be my last question to you. What are your thoughts on reviving the Shrum Bowl?
Yeah, you know, and I don't want to go too far in there because we have discussed, and Sean Olson and I have talked about this, and I've got to really, tip my hat to Sean in the sense that it was great to establish a discussion on a very professional level as far as the possibility of returning to a Shrum Bowl. And we've had some very, very positive preliminary discussions on the Shrum Bowl, and I think that it would be safe to say that it will return. I don't think that we'll be able to make it for 2014, but certainly it looks like everybody wants to see it come back. I know that from a UBC point of view, it is an important game for them to play, and the things that we all have to be in tune with are the critical aspects of their calendar and their season. We don't want that game to jeopardize also the success of their season, just like we don't want the game to jeopardize the success of our season. So it's important for us to find a date that can be mutually beneficial for both programs. I think that the community is looking forward to having such a contest, and you know, I think both universities in general would really benefit from that as well.
Could it be scheduled like a U.S. bowl game around the Christmas break or even into January rather than the traditional Canadians?
Well, the problem with that from our point of view is none of our players would be eligible to play. So that would not work. But certainly that's part of the issues that we're talking and dealing with, is the challenges of finding a time and place where we can both have access and not have issues with respect to compliance or regulations such as that.
Well, Jacques, thanks for your time. I know you're very busy at this time of year between playbooks and recruiting and setting a new foundation up on the Hill. Really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it as well. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, back to you, Ryan.
February the 5th marked the first official day high school players could commit to NCAA schools. A total of 3 BC-born players signing to play down south include AAA offensive MVP Malik Irons from WJ Mode, who accepted a full scholarship to Ohio University. AAA Defensive Player of the Year Zach Wilkinson from Mount Douglas signed with the University of Northern Colorado, while Blake Whiteley from West Van Secondary, who transferred from Arizona Western Junior College, has now enrolled at the University of Texas. Keeping with recruiting, former Mount Douglas star running back Terrell Davis announced that he was leaving Arizona State and he's coming home to play at UBC in 2014. Here's a look at the rest of the BC-born players who have committed to CIS schools this fall. All right, when we come back, we'll get you caught up with some big news coming out of the nest at UBC, a report from the Orange Helmet Awards, and who the latest BC-born players are heading for the CFL.
Crown Produce secures produce locally and from around the world for Canadian retailers. Crown Produce is also proud to secure sponsorship of University football on Shaw. Crown Produce, supporting Canadian retailers and Canadian amateur football.
It's a cooker outside, but we got AC indoors. Welcome back to Touchdown BC. I'm Ryan Sullivan. The first half of the show, we reviewed the news from January and February. So now let's get you caught up on the busy month of March. The biggest news came out of Point Grey as the top recruit in BC, Marcus Davis from Mount Douglas, committed to the UBC Thunderbirds, where he will join his brother Terrell in the T-Birds backfield this fall. The Thunderbirds rolled out their entire 2014 recruiting class, and our man Andrew Wadden was on the scene at Thunderbird Stadium.
The UBC Thunderbirds rolled out their 2014 BC recruits, introducing 27 new players from across the province into the Thunderbirds program. This year's recruiting class includes some impressive acquisitions, including the AA Player of the Year Evan Horton from Mission Secondary and AAA Player of the Year Marcus Davis from provincial champion Mount Douglas. Marcus will be joined in the T-Birds backfield with older brother Terrell, as the 2011 BC AAA Player of the Year has transferred from Arizona State after spending 2 seasons in the NCAA with the Sun Devils. After an impressive 2013 camp at ASU, Terrell found himself on the outside looking in on the Sun Devils roster.
I think the coaches just went in a different direction. Just didn't work out between myself and the coaches there, and I wasn't getting enough playing time as I hoped. So I decided to leave and try something else elsewhere.
He used his experience down south when giving Marcus advice on which route his little brother should take.
Definitely. I told him like the struggles that I had at ASU, and just told him to keep an open mind about really committing to school that he likes, and trying to get all the information about the coaches as well, and before he makes his final decision.
Just like Terrell 2 years ago, Marcus was the top high school football recruit coming out of BC. Despite the temptation of going to the NCAA, at the end of the day, Marcus felt UBC was the right fit for him.
For me, I knew this was where my heart was, with all my family around here and everything. So, I mean, I had like some options to go down to the States, but ultimately, I just thought this was the best choice for me.
With the excitement of playing alongside his brother and the crop of experienced talent the T-Birds have returning, Marcus feels big things are on the horizon for the blue and gold.
Honestly, I think we can go all the way. I mean, there's so many good players that are playing right now, as well as all the new recruits coming in, and the coach is going to do a good job putting everybody in the right position and to succeed.
Andrew Wadden, Touchdown BC.
Also in March, the BC Lions practice facility in Surrey played host to the best high school football players that this province has to offer. The Senior Bowl camp was held with many of the Lions, including quarterback Travis Lulay, in attendance. The camp featured drills with the Lions and culminated with the Senior Bowl game on March 22nd at McLeod Stadium in Langley. Our Alex Kerrigan was at the camp and the game and sends us this report.
Back in March, the top high school and community football players from across the province were invited to attend Senior Bowl practice at Tom Binney Park. The 80-plus invitees were mentored by members of the BC Lions, including Travis Lulay, Adam Bighill, Dean Valley, Corey Williams, Roy Lambala, Kyle Fisher, Tim Cronk, and J.R. LaRose. The practice took place at the Lions training facility in Surrey, with instructions and drills being led by the Lions themselves. Some of the attendees include top BC prospects, including quarterback Mike Lemoyne from the Handsworth Royals, Vancouver College's wide receiver Manveer Kun, and University of Wyoming-bound defensive end Jonathan Kongbo out of Holy Cross. Kongbo, despite already signing to play Division I football in the States, felt this camp would be beneficial to his development.
I felt like it was a great opportunity to learn, because you can never learn too much. There's always room for improvement. So I came to the Senior Bowl to use it as an opportunity to get better as a player, so when I get to university, I'm coachable easier and I know some things.
Having experienced an all-star game himself back in his high school days, Adam Bighill kept it simple when giving the kids advice.
I'm just coaching little things. A lot of times it's little things, technique that, they haven't been taught, things they don't know. And so if I see something, I just try to point it out and see if we can hammer it into them, and hopefully they can apply it.
Team Kelly in the Reds, Team Friesen in the Blues. First big play of the game is for Team Kelly. Quarterback Mike Lemoyne gets picked off. Check out the concentration by Tyler Geisler here, playing the tip drill. Geisler gets it back for Team Kelly. However, Team Friesen would open up scoring as Brody Taylor concedes the safety. Late in the second Q, Team Friesen on the doorstep, but Jonathan Kongbo shuts it. The former Holy Cross Crusader recently committed to the University of Wyoming, and he brings down Ty Marshall for the sack. But Marshall would knock the door down on this 1-yard plunge just 30 seconds later. On top of that, Friesen going for two. Manveer Kun hauling it in, and going into the half, it's Friesen leading it 10-0. In the third, Friesen driving again as quarterback Ben Miniker finding Amadrishad Gias. Gias would deke a few would-be tacklers. That would set up this 1-yard plunge by Braden Pritchard. But Friesen's on top 17-0, but we're not done. Josiah Joseph for the Kellys. He shakes a tackler and gets out of the pocket. Check out this block by Brody Taylor. Boom. Big gain. Then Joseph calls his own number, and Team Kelly has their first major of the game. Joseph hungry for more. This is 4th down and 30. Joseph airs it up for Eldridge Sellers the 5th, and that's how you convert on 4th down and 30. Joseph looking to get his team within a score, but Jake Furlot has other plans. Furlot of the WJ Mowat Hawks with a 105-yard pick 6. Queen's University happy to see this. Furlot's on his way to Kingston to play for him. That would be the nail in the coffin. Team Friesen wins this one with a score of 24-6 over Team Kelly. The All-Star Game was a big chance for local talent to showcase their skills and prepare for life after high school. Your players of the game, AJ Blackwell and Connor Novak, offensive and defensive MVPs respectively for Team Friesen. For Team Kelly, players of the game were Brody Taylor on offense and Jonathan Kongbo, as we mentioned, off to Wyoming.
News from Vancouver Island rounded out the month of March. The West Shore Rebels announced the hiring of co-head coaches Andrew Axhorn and Tom Fung. Axhorn spent time playing for the Edmonton Huskies in the PFC and later in the CIS at St. FX, while Fung was the defensive coordinator at Mount Douglas, where he helped lead the Rams to 1 AA and 3 AAA titles. All right, let's shift gears now to the month of April. The BC Lions hosted their annual Orange Helmet Awards and dinner at the Westin Bayshore in downtown Vancouver. Our Alex Kerrigan was at the event with a camera, a mic, and a salad fork.
For the 11th time, the BC Lions celebrated the best in amateur football with their annual Orange Helmet Awards. MC Chris Galis warmed the crowd up with a few jokes. After that, the team's Rick Ball and Julio Caravetta began presenting the awards, starting with 4 pioneers of amateur football. Lions alumni Dave Easley is the only coach to win junior, university, and professional football championships in Canada. Also a Lions alumni, Peter Oler threw the winning touchdown in the Lions' first Grey Cup win in 1964. Not only did he help found the Vancouver Blue Bombers in 1944, but Ranji Machu also set up the league that would become the modern BCFC. And one of the founders of the Richmond Raiders Football Club, Terry Kehoe, was recognized for his 30-plus years of dedication. Next up, some top volunteer coaches were honored. Navin Shand won 2 awards for his North Delta Pee Wee Longhorns and as Community Coach of the Year. Matthew Blocker of the VI Raiders won Junior Coach of the Year. He's now with the Calgary Colts, so accepting his award, former VI Raider and current BC Lions running back Andrew Harris. Scholastic Coach of the Year was Jay Prepchuk. For the 3rd consecutive year, Mount Douglas Rams head coach Mark Townsend was Senior Varsity AAA Coach of the Year. For the night's big award, Scott and Kay Ackles came out to present. They gave the Bob Ackles Lifetime Achievement Award to Jerry Mullis. A 50-year football vet, Mullis has seen and done it all.
And I just want to pass on my congratulations to all the other award winners tonight, because you really, truly are the bedrock of football in our province and in the country. So my congratulations to all of you.
To close out the ceremony, the BC Lions asked newly retired Montreal Alouettes quarterback Anthony Calvillo to be their keynote speaker.
How come I didn't get this kind of applause when we came and played? It was always the opposite.
Calvillo started about the importance of volunteers at the grassroots level.
But when I was growing up, I didn't realize that all these coaches that were coaching us were volunteer coaches. These were people who had their own jobs, their own families, but they still took the time to go coach the kids in the neighborhood. And that made a major, major impression on me.
In all, the BC Lions have raised over $500,000 for amateur and grassroots football in our province. For Touchdown BC, I'm Alex Kerrigan.
The NFL draft went down on May 8th through to the 10th. Unfortunately, over those 3 days, Bo Lacombo was not announced. The former WJ Mowat star, who played his entire NCAA career at the University of Oregon, was thought to be a late-round pick. The BC Lions do own Lacombo's CFL draft rights after taking the linebacker in the 3rd round of the 2013 draft. Keeping with that CFL draft, a total of 14 different players with BC connections were selected in this year's entry pick'em, including SFU offensive lineman Matthias Gosson, who was the 2nd overall pick. Here's the complete list of BC-related players who were selected on draft day. The East-West Bowl, which features the 2015 draft-eligible players in the CIS, went down on May 10th at TD Stadium on the campus of beautiful Western University in London, Ontario. Former VI Raider QB Jordan Yance tossed for a game-high 238 yards and rushed for 49 yards for Team West, while UBC running back Brandon Deschamps scored Team West's lone touchdown, but their squad would fall in the end by a score of 19-12. That wraps up this edition of Touchdown BC. I'll be back in July with another episode, a better tan line, and hopefully some better commentating. I'm Ryan Sullivan. I'll see you next time.